Hi friends, welcome to a Lovely Yarn podcast. My name is Amber. Thank you for joining me today. This is a podcast mostly about knitting and also some other fiber arts mixed in there sometimes. Welcome. Today is May, I always have to check my watch, May 9th. So it is Tuesday, May 9th, and it's a beautiful sunny day here in Pennsylvania. Blue sky, some white fluffy clouds, supposed to be in the low 70s. It's just perfect weather in my opinion. So I have my little earbuds in because I'm hoping that it helps with the, I'm using it as a mic. My son Ian just got home. He has been gone. He worked from the weekend through this morning away. So he was away. So he's back, and him and my daughter Lily are out talking and goofing around. So I thought I'm going to put these in and see if this helps with the sound quality. Anyway, I have some stuff to share with you guys today. But before I do that, I want to say a huge thank you. A huge thank you. I feel very, very, very spoiled and unworthy. I don't know. I always get so weird with this, but hey, I really appreciate, I'm going to share some of the stuff that I'm thanking you guys for, but I also just want to say thank you for the donations you've made through Ko-Fi. I had 2 people send me yarn, and I'm going to talk about that later. I also had someone send me a gift card to Pearl Soho, and I got on yesterday to thank. I was hoping that I could go through the gift card email and thank the person, but there was no way for me to do that, at least that I could tell. So Beth Ann, thank you so much for that. And I'm going to show you a couple other things later that I will also talk about. But I just want to say how much that means to me that you guys have supported me and what I'm doing here on this channel financially, and also through sending me yarn and a gift card and stuff. That just really means a lot to me. I really super appreciate it. So thank you. All right, so I'll start out with what I am wearing, and this is something that I knitted I think 2 years ago. This is The Rift by Jacqueline Slack. I think I'll put a little video clip over here of me so you can see the full thing, because with me sitting here you really can't see that, but I like this shirt a lot. It is knit out of a Quince & Co. I got on Ravelry this morning to see if I could find notes. I thought, please let me have written notes for this project, because I do have some projects on Ravelry, but most of the things I have knitted I've never documented on Ravelry, and I just recently this year started keeping this knitting journal, so the majority of the things that I've knitted I have no documentation of, unless there is a possibility that on this pattern I would have printed this pattern off. So probably on this pattern I wrote notes, but I didn't take the time to grab that pattern. It's down in the office it's down in my husband's work office, and he's working. So, but it is a Quince & Co. something. Actually, this is the yarn that I showed last podcast that I had thought about holding to make the stripes and the Seaborn Tee that I wanted to cast on. So this is actually that yarn, and it's a really beautiful greenish yellow color. I really love this. Now, this pattern was wonderful. It is knit bottom up, which I'm usually not a fan of, but I will do it. And then the reason I don't like bottom up typically is because I can't try it on as I go, and I like to try my garments on as I knit them to make sure that they're fitting me the way I want them to. But the way around that for bottom up garments is just to find something you've knitted in the past, or even just a store-bought shirt or sweater, and I lay it out on the bed. Like, I'll lay the store-bought, or the one that's already made, I'll lay it out on the bed, and then I'll lay the one that I'm working on bottom up over top, and then that way I can see, because a lot of the times it's this part, it's like, how deep do I make this? And I know some, like Leanne from the Knitty Stew, she's got, I think she calls it her magic number, where she just knows the depth of this that's good for her torso. And I should just measure, but I have not yet, because that's just how I am. I often just fly by the seat of my pants with these kind of things. But, you know, like I said, I'm trying to get better about keeping track of stuff, because it is so very helpful. But I would just lay this over top of whatever shirt that I pulled out of my closet that I liked how it fit me. And then I would use that to judge when to stop knitting in the round for the body and start like the sleeve stuff. This pattern is nice because she includes directions for, well, first of all, she includes directions for many different sizes. And I think she even has like a formula you can use to customize your sleeves. I'm almost positive, like the width of your sleeve, to make sure that your sleeve's going to fit you well. And then I chose to do the V-neck. I tend to find V-necks more flattering on me than crew necks, but there is, I think she includes like a crew neck instructions or a rounded neck instruction, as well as the V-neck. And then I like the little detail on the side. I think that's really nice. And then it does have a split hem. Oh, let me just get up here. So it has like the split hem, which is a little, I made mine a little bit longer in the back. I don't know if that's what the pattern said to do or if I just did that. I tend to do that with my split hems, but I think this is a really nice detail. I like that a lot. So as you can see, this is not a long, like it's kind of cropped. It comes right to my belly button. I do have a short torso, but I wear this. I'll just wear this with like these are cropped pants. Cropped isn't cropped on my legs. I wear this with whatever, and I'll wear it over dresses. It's very versatile for me. And actually I have yarn to make another one. I actually bought the yarn. I made this in 2021. And then, right? Yeah. Or 20. You know, maybe it was even longer ago. I can't remember. But then we went on a beach vacation and we went to Emerald Isle, and there's a really, really awesome, like one of the best yarn shops I've ever been in. And I can't remember the name of it, but it's right near Emerald Isle. I think it's in Wait, what is that? What is that little, I'm trying to think what that little town is that's right next to Emerald Isle. Anyway, I bought yarn there to make another one of these, and I never did it. In fact, I think I have it right here, because I even put it in the bag and everything. Is this it? It is. So I put it in the bag and everything, and then I just never, oh, and I bet I'm gonna have, yep, here we go. So this is working out well, huh? I would have looked down in with all my patterns and not even found it anyway. So let me see if I can find what size I knit. Usually when I have a written pattern, I usually print my patterns out unless it's a super simple pattern, and then I don't. But I like to keep track. Okay, so this was Quince & Co. Willet. That's what this was. So this is sport weight, and it looks like the pattern calls for something other than sport weight, because I wrote that I knit the 56-inch bust size to accommodate for the yarn that I used. So probably what I did is I figured out my gauge, and then there's a way to take your gauge. Like, so if you want to knit something that's in with a different weight yarn than what the pattern calls for, you can actually knit your gauge, do your gauge swatch, get your gauge, and then there's a way to take your gauge, and like there's a formula that you can use to figure out what size, how many stitches to cast on. And that's what I did for this. And I don't remember, it is so easy. I know I talked about this in one of my previous episodes, maybe from like last year, or maybe even from probably from when I knit this. And it's so easy to do, and it's so nice because then you don't have to get stuck. You can, if you have a yarn that you like, but it's not the exact weight of yarn, you can still possibly use it just by using this formula. I'd have to look back through, and I don't know if I'll have time to do that, but I would have included that in the show notes of whatever podcast was that I listened to that. Anyway, so yeah, this is the Rift. I don't remember the name of this color. But, oh, what I was saying is that I bought this yarn, and this is Little Fox Yarn. Let me show you. Little Fox Yarn Willow. This is also a sport weight, so obviously I'm going to have to check my gauge on this and make sure that I cast on the right size. But I have 2 skeins of it. Actually, I think I bought 3 skeins. I think I have a skein that I never caked up. I mean, guys, look, I was so serious about casting on another one right away that I actually came home from vacation and I wound these up into yarn cakes. I put like needles and everything in this little bag. Oh, here we go. There's my little note on how to adjust the formula. Oh, see, I even stuck that in there. Okay, so this is a really pretty color. It's called Smudge, and it's like a grayish blue color. And what does it have in it? Hemp, merino. It's 70% merino, organic merino, and 30% hemp. But it's really beautiful yarn. I tend to really like yarns that have fibers that kind of escape from the twist. So I like Tweety yarn a lot. I like yarn that has, a lot of times yarn with alpaca in it does that. And these little fibers, if you can see, I would assume that that is the hemp coming out. So yeah, this is really beautiful yarn. I should just cast this on real soon because, you know, I'm in the mood to do all these summery knits. And this is definitely one that is all ready to go for me. I actually forgot I had this until I was thinking about this podcast and the fact that I wanted to talk about this because I really do like this sweater pattern. So yeah. So this is the Rift Jacqueline C. Slack. Excellent pattern. Her patterns are very nice because she makes them very customizable as far as size. So if that's something that you appreciate, you would appreciate her patterns. Okay, so I only have one finished object, technically one finished object to show you. And they are a pair of socks, Shortie socks. So here they are. Really, there's nothing super exciting about this. I can tell you that I used, this is the yarn that I used, Regia. And I'll put all the info as far as color and everything down below in the video description. And what I ended up doing for this, I still have a lot of yarn left, so I would be able to make a second pair, I'm certain. Or at least part of a second pair, maybe just do contrasting toes or cuffs or something. So what I did with these is that I cast on and I knitted 15 rows of 2x2 ribbing. Let me make sure that's what I marked it on my little thing. I still have to write into my journal about these socks because I literally just casted these on. I knitted these in a week and a half. I cast them on last Sunday and I finished them last night. So I did 15 rows of 2x2 ribbing, and then I did 10 rows of stockinette, and then I did the heel flap, and I did try to match the yarn up. As you can see, I didn't do it perfectly because there's no white on this toe, but it was pretty darn close. So I do have a little bit here that I pulled off so that I could match the yarn up. I really wanted to match the heels is what I wanted to do. And then I did my gusset decreases, and then I don't even know, I didn't count how many rounds of stockinette before I did my decrease, and then I Kitchener stitch. This is just what I typically do for my socks. I do a heel flap and gusset, and I do a Kitchener stitch toe. I kind of want to branch out and try some different, more rounded toes. So I may do that this summer. Was there anything else I wanted to say about this? This is another sock yarn that I really like, commercial sock yarn, the Regia. I think it wears very nicely as far as it doesn't wear out. It doesn't get I don't typically get holes in the toes or the back of the heel. I always get my holes at the bottom of the heel and then the bottom of the ball of the foot. And I actually have a whole stack of socks that need mended. I need to get to that. I just keep putting it off because it's not, I'm sure once I start it, it will be a very meditative process and it'll feel really good because I'm mending something that took me a lot of time to make, but I'm just not, I just want to knit, not mend. You know what I mean? But I need to just make it a point to do that. So yeah, that's the story on these socks. There's not much to say. I cast on, these are like women's. I wear a size 8 shoe, and I don't know what that is European, maybe 39. But I usually just cast on on 60 stitches, and then I knit them on size 0 9-inch circulars. I really like 9-inch circulars a lot. I'm not a big fan of knitting on double pointed needles. I'd rather just keep knitting without having to worry about all the needles, you know? Okay, so that is all for that. Not overly exciting. So now I want to talk about some whips that I got going on here. Let's talk about my Ingrid sweater. For any of you that have knit this, chime in, please. Chime in here. Okay, so I was enjoying the sweater. Last time when I filmed my last episode, I don't know if I had tried it on yet. I ended up trying it on, and because I bound off the neck, and I tried it on. Let me get it all right. And I thought, yeah, that's gonna make a good length. It was a little bit shorter than what I wanted it, but I knew since this is Cascade 220 yarn, and it's a superwash, so I knew that it would stretch out. So I was like, yes, this is a good length, because I know when I block this, it's going to stretch, and I don't want to knit it to where I'd actually want to wear it, the length I would want to wear it, because then it's going to block out past that point. So I did that since my last episode, and I binded off the bottom. I think it called for like an Italian bind off or tubular bind off, and I was just like, no way am I doing this big thing. I don't know if there's a different way to do it, but when you do like a tubular bind off, you have to take 3 times the length of your circumference of whatever you're binding off. And so when I'm binding off necklines, because I did use the tubular for the neckline to bind off the neckline. So if I'm doing necklines or sleeve cuffs, that I have no problem. I actually like doing the tubular bind off. But when I was thinking about doing that for this bottom, I was just imagining the pain that would be with all of that yarn and having to sew that through, because I do the sewn tubular bind off. And I was just like, no, that doesn't sound fun. So I just ended up binding off in pattern, and it's a 2x2 ribbing down here, and I'm perfectly happy with it. It was worth it to not have to do the tubular bind off with all of these stitches. There's a wasp in here. I'll be right back. I gotta catch the wasp. Okay, I am back. All right, so that was not a problem doing the 2x2 regular bind off in pattern. So after I finished that, I went up and I started the sleeve, which I think I actually had part of the sleeve started last podcast. So this part of the sleeve where you have the ribbing, and then this part where you have, is that like moss stitch or seed stitch or something, it was perfectly fine. You're doing decreasing in here as well. Okay, no, it was once I got to this, you started the decreasing. And there's a chart for that. It's charted. These instructions are not, let me see. I'm pretty sure, hold on. I want to just make sure that I'm not wrong about this. Yes. So the chart directions are not written. They're all charted, which I don't have any problems reading charts. I actually prefer charts because when I read instructions, I get like my vision, it starts to get all like, it's a lot. It's a lot of words. Okay. So I prefer reading charts when I'm knitting. However, I got to just drop some stitches. Hold on a second. I got to the cross portion, the cross pattern of the sleeve right here. And I got super frustrated. At first it was nighttime, so I thought I must just be really tired. So I laid it down and I didn't work. I think I worked on the socks or something. I was like, I just can't tonight. Came back to it the next morning, which is when I'm very fresh and like my thinking is typically straight and on point. And I was still running into the problems because you have to put in decreases as you knit, which was not a problem so much up in here. But when you're working on the chart and you're trying to do this pattern and you're having to put the decreases in yourself and keep track of the decrease every 8th round, and she doesn't write the decreases, like normally when you have a chart, the designer will put the decreases into the chart so you know when. Okay, she doesn't. You have to do that yourself. The chart, I was just like, oh my gosh, this is too much work. So I became so frustrated and I was like, I can't believe I've come this far and I am so confused and everything. I ended up getting on. I thought somebody has had to have this problem too. Somebody has had to struggle through this pattern. So I got on Ravelry and I looked up the pattern, and sure enough, there was at least, I don't know, like most people didn't say anything about it. So I was scrolling through and I was starting to think that I just am not a good knitter, that I can't figure this out and I must be doing something wrong or I'm missing something. And then I came across a project page where the woman said that she was really confused until she went and found a video on Petite Knit's website. And this is a Petite Knit pattern, by the way. I don't think I said that. It's really hard to find though. So I went searching for it, and you have to actually go into where she sells her patterns on her website. If you click on the Ingrid Sweater pattern for sale, you go in there, and then somewhere in there, I think there's a little videos tab, and then you can look at the different techniques for that particular sweater. But it wasn't in the pattern. It should have been, in my opinion, it should have been in the pattern so that I could have seen that right away. And so she tells you in that video, this is what you have to like not knit. Like you have to put your decreases into your chart as you go. She doesn't have it. Do you know what I mean? Like if you look at a chart, typically it's like it's a chart. I can't show you that chart because it's a paid for pattern. But then you'll notice like the decreases will be like it's either darker or lighter there, and the pattern will start to go like this on the chart. Well, hers was just like this, like all the instructions, all the little stitches remained there, and you have to put that in. So if you're gonna knit this pattern, oh my goodness, like I would not recommend this pattern to a beginner unless you are very ambitious, because even once I knew that, I still felt like I really had to read my knitting. I kept thinking I was off stitches, but then I kept counting. No, I have the right number of stitches. It just was weird. And so I feel like I winged it through that section, and I just used my knitting knowledge, and I just really read my knitting to make everything look like it was supposed to look. So I'm really not looking forward to doing the other sleeve. I'm really looking forward to having this sweater, but I'm not looking forward to doing the other sleeve. And maybe I'm sure the second sleeve will be easier because I will have an idea, but I literally, I feel like I spent at least a good hour trying to figure out this. So right now I'm on the wrist cuff. I'm working on that, and I just need to figure out how long I want that. This is a drop shoulder. So even though that even though the sleeve looks pretty short, it's actually not, because this hangs down because it's a drop shoulder. It's definitely going to be an oversized sweater. So please tell me if you've knit this sweater. Did you struggle with this too? Because I couldn't believe how many project pages didn't even mention anything about it. I was so thankful for that one woman who had mentioned it, because I literally was starting to think, I'm just not a good knitter. That I can't figure this out. Like, what am I doing wrong? So anyway, that's what I wanted to say to you guys, because I have been talking about this sweater for a while. I wanted to follow up with that. Just know that when you get to that portion, it's extremely helpful to look up her website and watch her little video. But even after that, I feel like I still had to really read my knitting and just kind of, like I said, I kind of felt like I was winging it, which I've been a knitter long enough that I can do that. But for someone who hasn't, I don't know. That would be really, I feel like that would be really stressful. I just felt more frustration than anything. Okay, so my next project is a new one that you guys have not seen yet, but I talked about it last time because it was on I talked about wanting to cast on for it, and it is the Seaborn Tee. Seaborn Tee. The printing is horrible because Herb Garden Knitwear. Herb Garden Knitwear is the designer of this. And let me show you what I have. This is also knit bottom up. Okay, so this is what I have so far. And I'm actually going to use my Rift tee to judge how far up I want. How like, hold on. I don't want to lose stitches. I'm going to use my Rift tee to figure out how long I want to make the sides of this, because I like the length of this. I'm using Drops Belle, and this colorway is called, it's number 23. I think it's Almond Rose. Almond Rose, yep. Okay, and then I had asked you guys your opinions on the contrast color, and a lot of you liked this color, but I just wanted more of a contrast, and I didn't think this was going to give enough contrast, although I may make another one of these and use this as, I don't know that I'd have enough yarn. I still have quite a bit of yarn left over from this, but I don't know that I'd have enough to use this as the main color. Maybe if I adjusted the stripes, this width of the stripes, and that might work. I haven't figured that out yet. But what I ended up doing was ordering some more, this contrast color of Drops Belle. This is actually called Petrol, I think. It's color number 17, which I'm pretty sure is Petrol. And it is a tealy blue color. So what I ended up doing was I ripped out my tip top tank, as I showed you last episode, because it was too big. So I ripped it out, and I wanted to use that yarn to make this shirt. I didn't want to have to buy new yarn. Well, oh my gosh, I was ripping it out, and I'm getting all these tiny balls, and I am like, why do I have all these tiny balls of yarn? And I think it's because the way I weave in my ends, I really weave them in aggressively because I don't want them to work loose, because I think just because I've had that happen in the past, and so now I'm really sensitive to making sure they're woven in really well. So then when you're trying to undo yarn and you've got ends woven in really like aggressively, it was getting all caught up, so I was having to cut it, and so I ended up with a bunch of little balls. I'm working my way through them, but then I got nervous thinking, what if I don't have enough? Because it didn't seem like it was going to be enough. So I ended up getting on Wool Warehouse, and I ordered some more skeins of this. It's like $2 something a skein, US dollars, almost $3 a skein. So I ordered 5 skeins of it, and I thought, if I'll just use it to make another summer shirt, because like I said last time, I have no I don't have a lot of summery yarn except for this, for my rift, which I forgot I had. But it's already got a designated project anyway. So I ordered 5 more skeins, and then I ended up ordering some of this as well because I liked it. It was nice and bright, and I thought this would make a nice contrast color. So when I first started, I didn't like it. I thought it was too bright, but now it's grown on me. I royally messed up the shells. I just had one of those weeks last week with my knitting. I think that's what happened. I want to talk about this pattern a little bit because it's a really nice pattern. She actually gives you charts to figure out what size you should knit, which is really nice, and it's not anything I'd ever seen by another designer. So you measure your bust, or you just use your bust size, and then you look on her chart, and then she tells you how many stitches to cast on. And then I think it's also, yes, for the sleeves, that also works for the sleeves. You measure your bicep. So using the bust circumference chart, I was to cast on the size B8 because this is, I think it's to have 2 to 4 inches of positive ease, and my bust is 38. So the B8 was going to give me a 41¼ inch bust, like finished circumference. But then I casted this on 4 times. 4 times. I literally was ready to give up. Again, maybe it was it a full moon last week? I don't know. Like, maybe it was just the week. It's just the week I was having. I casted it on 4 times, okay? And the first time I casted it on, I started knitting the shell pattern, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is huge. This is going to be so big on me. I'm not going to like this. So I ripped it out, and the first time I casted it on, I also had just done a regular long tail cast on. She asks you to do a tubular cast. Wait, hold on. What's it called? Is it a tubular cast on? Yes, tubular cast on. But you do it modified because you don't work the foundation rows. Most tubular cast on, you do your cast on, then you do 2 foundation rows. You don't do that, and she tells you that. So the second time I cast on, I did that. I did the tubular cast on, and I went down a size to the B7 to have a 38-inch bust, because even though, so I got gauge. I did get gauge, which the one nice thing about working with Drops Belle is that I've worked with it enough now, and it seems like all of my patterns that I've worked on that call for this yarn, or that I've used this yarn for, call for a size 6 needle, and I know that I need to go down to a size 5. So these are size 5 needles. The pattern calls for a 6, but I used 5. And anyway, I did my tubular cast on. It was, no, I'm sorry. I didn't go down. The second time I cast it on, I did not go down. Let me just start over. The first time I cast it on, I started doing the shell, and I thought, oh, this isn't going to look as nice without the tubular cast on. So I ripped it out. Then I cast it on with the tubular cast on, which is not hard to do. It's just different. It's not hard. I knitted through the shell, like, I forget, maybe 6 rounds through the shell. And that's when I, no. I knitted 3 rounds through the shell, and I realized that I had twisted. And I didn't catch it. It's okay. It's really hard to do a big cast on, a big number of stitches with a tubular cast on. And it's the way that the cast on stitches lay on your cable. They're easy to flip and get twisted. And somehow I knit 3 rounds of this shell stitch pattern before I realized that I had twisted my stitches. I don't know how that happened. How does that happen? I don't know how that happens, but it happened to me. And so I was like, I am not doing that again. I can't. I did though. So my third time, I tried it again. I cast on the tubular thing, and I started, and I got like all my stitches casted on, and then I go to join them, and I could not get everything to be lined up. Some people suggest that when you do a tubular cast on with a large number of stitches, you should use like really long straight needles. I didn't want to do that. Sometimes I'm just stubborn. Okay. I admit, I just didn't want to do that. I didn't want to do it. So I decided I'm just doing a regular cast on. So my shells do not look as pretty because they don't just flow over. They have this ridge. The way she designed this and wrote this, it looks much prettier. But it looks pretty enough for me, and I'm happy with it. I did mess up the twisted, it calls for a twisted central double decrease. I messed it up and didn't figure out that I had messed it up. I had done a central double decrease before, but never the twisted. So I found a video online and watched it, and it was not, as I found out later, she did not. Maybe there's multiple ways to do that particular stitch, but she did not do it the way that the designer wanted. And then when I'm up here working in this last portion, I realized that the designer had written in the pattern, if I would have looked through the pattern, she had written exactly how to do that twisted central double decrease. So if I would have just read through the pattern, or at least, I think I might have, no, I don't even think I skimmed it. Have you ever done that before? Like you just dive right in. You really should just look through the pattern. It was there, and if I would have done it the way that she said, then let me show you what I mean. Like this line right here should go the whole way up with all those little stitches facing forward, but mine are all twisted up because I didn't do the central decrease correctly. It should be like, can you see how these are straight? These all face forward. Yeah, that's because I did it right up there, because I found her little instructions. This is all twisted. From far away, nobody's gonna know, and I don't care. And I didn't feel like casting this on for a 5th time. I'm like, no. When I make this again, which I probably will make this again, I will know how to do it correctly. So, anyway, I hope I didn't confuse you. I feel like I just completely babbled the whole way through describing what I did with this. It was just a weird knitting week last week. But anyway, despite the fact that according to the chart, I should be knitting the B8, I am knitting the B7, and I'm definitely glad I'm not knitting this any bigger, because I think this is going to fit me perfectly. And it will stretch out a little bit when it blocks. I've noticed that this particular yarn doesn't stretch a whole lot when you wet it and block it, but it does have a little bit of stretch. So, do I have anything else to say about this? I don't think so. I hope I didn't confuse you guys. The pattern. Oh, the one other thing that I noticed is, as I said, I usually like to follow charts, and she gives written instructions as well as charted instructions for the shells. Once I got to a certain point in the shell pattern chart, the stitches weren't matching up with the stitch down below. Unless I was being stupid, which is possible. Like, the instructions on the chart, whatever it would say to do here, it didn't always match up with what stitch it should be over from the row below. I don't know if that's making sense. And again, I don't know if that's just something I did. I messed it up. I feel pretty confident that I didn't, because I did use stitch markers. So this shell is like a 14 stitch section. So I actually put a stitch marker every 14 stitches because I wanted to make sure that I knew exactly where I was. So I was doing really good with that in that way. So I'm not sure if there's just an error in the chart. So what I ended up doing is, when I got to that section, I just looked at her written instructions, and then I also was able to read the knitting pretty well. So I knew I knew what it should look like. So that's how I got through that. Okay, hope that makes sense. And she does tell you how to do jogless stripes so that you don't have, you can, here, let me show you. You can see a little jog. I'm not exactly sure where this is going to line up as far as where on my body this is going to lie whenever, or to lay whenever I, you know, go to start the arms, but I'm going to see if I can get that. I might just have to readjust the beginning of my round so that I can get this going up a side seam, because that's where I want it rather than like right on the front or right in the middle of the back. Okay, that's that. One more thing really quickly. I want to show you another summer tee that I knit. This one, it's been a while. And it is called the Morning Mist Tee. It's by Annie Roden. Now, the thing about this shirt is I've actually knit this twice. I knit this one first, and this is the short sleeve, like it's like a cap sleeve. And then I also knit it again, and then I just made it long sleeve, which I found instructions online on how to do like the whole short row shaping to make your sleeves. But I'm not going to show you that particular sweater. It is knit in a cotton yarn that it's a good like spring, summer evening sweater. But this one's huge. So I wore this a couple of times. Let me show you. Look how big it is. It's too long and it's too wide. And it has been since the beginning, but it has stretched out even more. So I don't wear it anymore. But the thing that really attracted me to this shirt was this back lace paneling, which is just absolutely gorgeous. I'll put a photo in here of, because I actually did document this project on Ravelry, although I didn't document what size I knit. So I'm hoping when I find the pattern in my pattern binder, I have it written in there. That way I know when I re-knit this, like what size. I need to go down at least one size. But I think that that is just such a beautiful back panel. And then it's just plain in the front. It's got a little bit of a bigger neck. And then you've just got a garter ridge there and here along the cap sleeve. So my plan for this, I knit this in Berroco Fiora yarn, and I don't know what the content is, but it definitely feels like it's cotton. It feels like it's a cotton yarn. So I want to rip this out and then repurpose this yarn. Perhaps make another one of these. I actually think I'd prefer to remake this in a solid color. So have the lace panel be the same color as the rest of the sweater. But we'll see what I decide to do with that. So I just wanted to share that, guys, with you, because this has been laying on my pile of projects that need frogged. And after frogging that tiny tank 2 weeks ago, and how I had so many small balls of yarn after that, I was like, oh gosh, I hope this isn't going to be the same way. But who knows? It's all working out. Okay, now I want to talk about some really sweet, so this is, I guess I could say it's an acquisition type segment, which I don't typically have this because I haven't really been buying yarn. I've been trying to work from my stash, but as we talked about last time, I didn't have any summery yarns in my stash except for that hemp and merino yarn, which I totally forgot I had until today. So I had a very lovely, kind viewer, Marianne. I hope I'm pronouncing it Marianne. I think it's Marianne. Reach out to me, and she had some Pearl Soho linen quill. I had talked about this last time, my last podcast. She had some that she was not going to use, and she asked me if I would like it, and I was like, well, that is so sweet of you. Yes, I would love it. So she sent it to me, and the really funny thing is it's actually a color that when I was trying to decide if I wanted to buy it, the Pearl Soho, when it was on sale, the linen quill, it was actually one of the colors. I had picked out 3 different colors that I thought, oh, I want to make a sweater out of that. It was one of those colors. So here it is. It is the So let's see, hold on. Does it have a color name? Peach Stone. And it, to me, it's like a bit of a lavender. So I think that'll look really nice. And so a lot of you spoke very highly of the linen quilt, because in my last episode I was asking what your opinion was, and so many of you have used it. So that was so nice to read those comments, because then I thought, all right, I want to try this now. And I was like excited about purchasing some. But many of you pointed out that it actually has quite a large wool and alpaca content and only 15% linen, and I had no clue. So thank you for pointing that out as well. So we'll see. I'm going to knit a summer shirt out of this. I think I'm going to do, what was the name of the Surrey top by Kadri. That's the one I talked about my last episode. There's also the top, it's called the Good, and I forget the designer's name, but I'll put that down below. That was another one that I really liked, and quite a few people used the linen quill to make that. So I have this. Not only did Marion, it's one word. So I'm thinking it's Marion, but I could be wrong. I'm so sorry. If you watch this, can you comment below and like phonetically spell out how to pronounce your name so that I don't mispronounce it? Not only did she send me that, I literally feel so spoiled. I feel so spoiled. She sent me this, another Regia, which I just said I love this yarn. And this is like blues and greens, my favorite color. I love blues and greens. I love blues, greens, corals, pinks. Yeah. So she sent me this, which was just so kind. And then she sent me this whole bag, like a sweater's quantity of this beautiful worsted weight yarn from Knit Picks that I've never even heard of before. It's called Heatherly. And it is, the colorway appears to be Teddy Bear, and it's 218 yards of skein, and there's 6 skeins in here. So I'm definitely going to have enough yarn to make a whole sweater. Oh my gosh. And this pink, it's more pink in person. It's showing up later on the camera, but it is so beautiful. It's like one of my favorite shades of pink. And then she sent me a mug, a handmade mug. No, I don't think it's handmade by her, but it's handmade because there's like a signature on the bottom. Oh my gosh, you are so sweet. Thank you so much. You made my day. People are so kind. There's so many. I know there's lots of bad stuff happening in our world, and there's a lot of evil things, and there's a lot of mean people, but there are also a lot of really kind, very generous people with really good hearts. And that's what we need to focus on. We need to focus on reminding ourselves that despite all the scary bad stuff that's going on in the world, there are people out there who are so generous and kind. And like this, she doesn't even know me. But she sent me all this stuff. It made me feel so loved. Thank you so much. I appreciate it probably more than you know. So then I get that. And then I also get a package from Allie. I'll put both of these ladies' Instagram accounts down below so you can check them out. And she sent me, I almost feel like, how can I describe this? Like, okay, I'm not even going to try to describe it. Thank you. It's hard. You know, do you ever have problems like accepting gifts and stuff? Or accepting help? Like, I'm that type of person. Ask my mom. She always says, why don't you accept my help? Why don't you I'm like, I know, Mom. I don't know. Anyway, Allie sent me this. And this is also linen quill, and it's beautiful. It is the honey pink color. I don't know. This might look really pretty together. Maybe do something stripey. Because this is a lot of yarn. Linen quill is like 400 and some yards. It's a fingering weight. It's 439 yards, and I have 3 skeins of each color. That might look really nice to do a stripey. Maybe that coloring book tee. Doing that with stripes. So thank you, Ellie. She sent me this. I literally feel so spoiled. You guys are so sweet. Thank you. When I use this yarn, I'm going to think about how kind you are, and it'll be a reminder to me of how kind people, there's many kind people in this world. And then in the meantime, like before I received those things, my husband and I went to it's called Nomadic Trading Company, and I had never been there before, but it's like a big old warehouse that's full of, basically it's different vendors that come in, but they have permanent spots there, and they sell a lot of antiques or vintage, those kind of things. I think I might really just get this story all messed up, but I think at some point there was a yarn store in there as well, and she closed up her shop, and she did a liquidation of her yarn several years ago. I remember them posting about it on Facebook, but I wanted to go, but it didn't work out that I was able to go that week that they were having it. So they did another liquidation sale. It must have been whatever she didn't sell the first time. They did another liquidation sale 2 weeks ago. Last weekend. My husband and I went, and I kind of wanted to film, but it was so crowded in there, and there were so many people, and it was hard to they just had, when you walked in, it was a big room, and they had tables just with yarn laid out on them. And so it was kind of busy and noisy. So I didn't film anything because honestly, I was like, I'm not going to get my camera off for this. But I got some yarn at liquidation prices. I got it super cheap. I put a lot of yarn back because I thought, no, just because it's this cheap doesn't mean I should buy it, because I need to store it somewhere. Where am I going to keep all this yarn? But I got, and this was before I knew that Marion was sending me that Pearl Soho. I got this Berroco Remix Light. I got 3 skeins of it, and it is a light, so it's like a 3. Is that sport weight? But I'll show you the fiber content of it. And when I saw this, I thought, oh, that would probably make a really nice Surrey top. And it's got that tweedy look to it, which if you look at one of the samples, maybe the main sample that Kadri has featured, it's knit with like a charcoaly looking yarn that kind of resembles this. So whether or not I actually use this to make that, I don't know, but I have it. It's 100% recycled fibers. I think one of you actually recommended this remix yarn, and I found it there. So I got 3 skeins of that. And then this is another Berroco. This is Berroco Indigo. I've never heard of this one before, but it's a recycled denim and cotton. And again, that was like the retail price. I got it. It was much cheaper than that. So this is 219 yards. I thought this would make a really pretty ranunculus, a summer ranunculus, but then again, I don't know. I might do something else. I don't plan on using all of this year. This was more like a, I'm gonna buy these things, and then next spring when it rolls around, I'll have yarn to make more spring shirts. So I got 4 skeins of that. And then the last thing that I got is not summer yarn, but it was really cheap and it's a really pretty color. And it is called Ella Rae Superwash Classic Wool. I've never used this yarn before. And I thought that color went good with my skin tone. It's kind of like, I don't know if you can pick this up on camera, but it's heathered and it's got some definition and depth to it. Doesn't really show that very much on camera. But I got 5 skeins of that. And I was thinking of maybe making a weekender sweater, because I have a weekender sweater that I made when she first came out with that pattern. And unfortunately, I made it with, I made it too big. And I stuck it in the dryer and attempted to shrink it, and I shrunk it a little too much. So I can wear it, but it's super tight and constricting on the sleeves. And so it just doesn't feel good to wear. So I just don't wear it. So I'd like another one because I really liked the look of that sweater. Yeah, so that's why I bought this. This has been in the freezer for the last 2 weeks because I was not sure. I was afraid. I was like really nervous about the potential of bringing moths into my home and into my stash. Because like I said, this is just a big warehouse. I don't know how they were storing all that yarn. So I brought it home and I stuck it immediately in the freezer. I think that's probably plenty long enough in case there was anything. I don't know. But anyway, that is my podcast for today. I feel like I had a prolific amount of acquisitions, and that feels slightly extravagant. So I don't know. It's weird because I haven't bought, there was a point in my life that I bought a lot of yarn. I didn't think as much about it. I would just, if it looked nice, I would buy it. But then it's still here, like there. I'm glad I have it. You know, it's very inspiring to look at, but I've got lots of yarn. But, you know, now I really think about it. And because I do want some more summer knits in my wardrobe, I was on a lookout for cotton type yarns. And then Allie and Marianne sent me that linen quill, which, you know, was so extremely generous. And then Beth Ann sent me that gift card for Pearl Soho. So I'm saving that until Pearl Soho has their next sale. They just had a 25% off sale and I didn't buy anything then. So I'm going to wait until they have their next sale, and then I'll probably, so many of you said such good things about the linen quill, and then multiple people also mentioned the good wool was very nice. So that would be more for like, you know, like warm or cool weather garments, but I'm not going to be in a rush because I have lots of yarn right now, so that's exciting. But yeah, I wanted to thank you guys so much for watching, and I think I'm going to wrap it up now for this episode. I feel like I talked a lot. I feel like I babbled a lot. I don't know. Did I babble? I'm going to get my mess cleaned up, and then I'm going to go outside because it's gorgeous out. And I've been spending a lot of time out there. Last week was not so gorgeous. It rained all week and it was cold. But this week it's supposed to be in the 70s, and we have quite a few days with sun. And I'm just like, I'm trying to figure out where to put all my seeds and plants into my garden. I think we're going to have to put in an extra bed, which we've been wanting to do for a couple of years, just because I didn't grow sunflowers last year because I ran out of space, and I really like to plant sunflowers this year. So I think we're just going to build up a bed using some foundation rock that we got, and just fill it with some soil and compost that we have, and so it won't cost us anything to do that, which is always nice. It's nice when you can use what you have. But I need my husband to do that. Last night we were out there and I was telling him my plans, and I was trying to get his opinion on where to plant everything in the raised beds. And I'm just like, honey, I am not mechanically inclined when it comes to building structures or figuring out the best way to anchor things. That is not my forte. I'm more of the creative force behind the garden, and then I will take care of it all summer, and I will tend to it, and I don't even mind pulling weeds. But he's like, if something needs built or trellised, he's got to do it, which he is totally, like, he's all for it, which is good. He's just very, very handy. He's very handy, which is wonderful. So yeah, so he's going to come up with some things to make our, like, just trellising some of our vegetable plants that we want to plant. And this year I'm really trying hard to figure out how to conquer the aphids. And I think I'm going to be ordering ladybugs to at least help take care of that, because I haven't had success with my viney plants like cucumbers, zucchini, squash, because these aphids get on there and completely destroy my plants. It's so frustrating. I didn't even plant any of those type of plants last year because I just felt really defeated. Plus I thought wherever if they're living in the ground, I don't know. Like, I just want them to know I'm not planting any of that stuff here this year. They need to go somewhere else. But I'm going to try this year, and I've been reading up on it. I've been doing some research, and ladybugs are supposed to be awesome for eating aphids. So I'm going to order like a massive quantity of ladybugs to release into my garden. And it's just like, that just comes with organic gardening. You know, it's not an option for me to spray my plants or use insecticides or pesticides or anything like that. That's not, I don't want to garden that way. I want to keep my vegetables and even my flowers. I want to keep my soil free of, you know, chemicals. And so when you do organic gardening, there's a lot more experimentation, and it feels like more of a battle, but it's one that I'm willing to fight because I enjoy gardening. If I didn't enjoy gardening, well, I wouldn't do it probably, because it's a lot of work, but I love it. I love gardening, and my life is about to become like all about the gardening. So I'm going to try to keep knitting through the summer. I always do knit through the summer. I just don't always knit as much because I'm outside so much. But yeah, anyway, so I will maybe work on another video, like a vlog over the next several weeks. We'll see what happens with that. But I want to just thank you guys so much for your generosity and your kindness. And if you'd like to find me on Instagram, I do link that down below, as well as the coffee account that I have set up for this. And I also have my email address down there for the channel in case you ever want to reach out. Yeah, and all the other stuff is linked down there. Hopefully, if I forget to link something, just, you know, mention it in the comments and I will go ahead and link that as well. And was there anything else I wanted to say? I don't think so. I think I'm going to wrap it up with that. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will talk to you next time.